adding some JavaScript to the mix. And up to this point, this is the objects that we have been working with. And if you press the keywords, the W, the keyword, D, S, and then the other one, it was A. So this is the functionality. So now we're gonna be adding some JavaScript to this. It is possible to populate the scene with entities created using JavaScript too. So let's use it to add a third shape, a cylinder. So right now we have this torus and just this cube. So now we're gonna add a third object here. Okay, so a cylinder. Add a new script element at the end of the body element, just after the a-scene element. Then add the following JavaScript code inside. So we are gonna add this. We're gonna go into the HTML. I'm gonna close this, and it's gonna be, let me see, and it's gonna be just after the scene name. So just after the scene name, let me see, at the end of the body element, just after the scene name. So at the end, I guess it has to be here. So we're gonna add a source like this. I mean, we need to add a script, and then we're gonna, oops, like that. We're gonna add a script, and then we're gonna have a source, and I'm just gonna name it main.js like that, and I'm gonna save it, and here I'm gonna create it. So I'm gonna name it main.js like that. So from here we are gonna start adding some code, or you can just add this, pretty much this HTML inside, this JavaScript inside of HTML, or I'm gonna do it outside. So okay, so in this JavaScript name main, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create two variables, so two constant declarations, namely name scene and cylinder. So let's start working with. So we're gonna have this constant declaration name scene like that, and we're gonna set it to the document that. Okay, so we have the scene document that query selector. So we're gonna the query, okay, I have it here, query selector, and we're gonna pass a string. So and it's gonna be inside double quotes, so it's gonna be just scene like that. Okay, I mean it's gonna be a-scene, so it's gonna be a-scene. We can save it, and now we're gonna create a second, or we're gonna declare a constant declaration named cylinder like this. Let me see if I type, okay, cylinder. Okay, and again we're gonna set it to the document, but this time we're gonna use the method create element. So it's gonna be like that, document that create, let me see if I have it, create element. So you can read it, that is a method document that create element, blah blah blah. Okay, so document that create element, and we are gonna pass in this string that is gonna be the a-cylinder. It's gonna be a-cylinder like this. So we have that, and again nothing is happening yet. We can refresh it. Okay, and what else? So yeah, you can end these statements with semicolon, so to keep it more robust. Okay, so now we're gonna use this variable named cylinder, and we're gonna use this property set attribute. So we're gonna go here. So we're gonna use the cylinder that is gonna be set attribute. As you can see, we're gonna use this 4 times, so we're gonna use the set attribute. Okay, it's gonna be set attribute, and again this is a method element. Set attribute qualifies name, sets the value of element's first attributes whose qualified name is qualified name to value. So set attribute, and we're gonna open parentheses, and inside of this parentheses, so we're gonna have 2 parameters that is going to be namely the color, and then pretty much the color, but we're gonna use the number sign and then the hexadecimal. So we're gonna have two parameters. The first parameter is gonna be inside double quotes color, the second is gonna be inside double quotes again, but we're gonna use the number sign double F, and then it's gonna be 95. So let me see if that's right, double F 9500, and let's save it for now. Let's see if it's changing a little bit. Nothing yet. Okay, and let me see. So I name it main.js, and here I have it as, it's gonna be Okay, so that's fine up to this point. Let me see. So now we're gonna have, again, we're gonna use pretty much, we can just copy and paste this one, yeah, like that, because we're gonna do it for 4 times. So now we're just gonna change, instead of color, this one is gonna be, let me see, it's gonna be height. So it's gonna be the height, and we're gonna set it just to the number 2 inside of the double quotes. Let me see, we can separate it with semicolon here. Let me see. Okay, separate it with a semicolon. Now we're gonna have the radius here. So we're gonna have the radius, and the radius is gonna be 0. Let me see, 0.75, I guess. Let me see, let me double check. 0.75. okay, semicolon at the end. And now we're gonna have in the position. So here we're gonna have in the position, and now it's gonna be, the position is gonna be 3 space 1 space 0. Okay, so let me check it out. So yeah, that's fine. And we're gonna end this statement with a semicolon. We're gonna go down, and this time we're gonna use the variable seeing. So seeing, we'll have it, so we're using this variable. And now we're gonna use the appendix. Let me see, we're gonna use the appendix child. So oops, appendix. So as you can see, we have this method named appendix, and then we have this another method named appendix child. So know that appendix child, you can read more about it. And then we're gonna pass in the cylinder, so double quotes, and then we're gonna pass in the cylinder like this. Let me see, oops, without the double quotes, like that. And then we just end it with a semicolon. Okay, so we have that, and bingo. So this is what we have right now. Let's refresh it, and as you can see, this is it's not really dynamic, so it's not moving around, it's just static. But we can press the key, the keyboards, and I'm pressing the W right now, the keyboard W. So now I'm gonna press D, now I'm gonna press the letter A, now I'm pressing the letter S in my keyboard. Okay, so we can play that. You can also play with the cursor. Right now I'm playing with the cursor, but as you can see right now, we have 3 objects. We have the torus, we have the cube, and now we have the cylinder. So we have that up to this point. And again, you can just pretty much type this JavaScript file inside of your HTML, but I just did it in a separate file, and I name it main, and I put this inside of the script inside of source. So that's pretty much what I did. Let's close this one, that one too. Okay, so let's keep moving. Now we're getting a reference to the scene handler first. Then we create a cylinder element as an A-frame entity, and this is the website, the A-frame. So also keep that in mind here. Now we have at aframe.io. Okay, so after that, it's all about setting the proper attributes. So as you can see here, we are setting in the proper attributes. We're setting the color, the height, the radius, and the position. So yeah, the color, height, radius, and the position. The last line adds the newly created cylinder to the scene. That's it. You created 3 different shapes with A-frame. Here's how it looks right now. So and this is pretty much what we have here. So that's pretty much it. Now it is impressive to be able to create such a scene with just a few lines of HTML and JavaScript. So now we're gonna do the animation. Okay, so we have already used rotation and position to move the shapes on the scene, and we can also scale them. These attributes can be manipulated to create the illusion of animation. So now we can see the rotation. There's a special element, so we have inside this angle brackets the A-animation entity that can help us animate elements. Add the A-animation element seen below to the A-box element as a child. So we're gonna, and again, remember, we are not using this A-box, we are using the A-cube. So they made a mistake here. So if we go to the HTML file, we are using A cube here, so we're using the a cube. I'm gonna put it here. So we're using the a cube instead of the a box, but inside of this a hyphen cube we're gonna add this a hyphen animation as a child. So it's gonna look something like this, and in a hyphen cube we have the color, the rotation, and the position. So we have the color, the rotation, and the position. Let me see if that's the same. Okay, so the color is the same, the position is the same. Okay, so yeah, that's fine. Okay, so let's go right here, and now we're gonna have a hyphen animation like this. So let me see, a hyphen animation. Okay, it's inside of the a hyphen cube. Okay, so let me see, let's move this one here, and okay, so now I'm gonna start typing. We're gonna have an attribute from, okay, so we're gonna have attribute first. So it's gonna be, let me see, okay, attribute, and we're gonna set it to something. Then we're gonna separate it. We don't separate it with commas or semicolons. So attribute is gonna be set to rotation inside double quotes. Then we're gonna have the from, and again it's just gonna be from, it's gonna be from 20 space 0 space 0. Okay, so now we're gonna have to, so this is the directions, and it's gonna be to 20 space 360 and then 0. So let me see, that's fine. To the next line we're gonna have direction, so it's gonna be direction, the direction is gonna be alternate, so it's gonna be alternate like that up to this point. So let's save it, see if it's changing a little bit. Nothing is changing. Oops, as you can see, if I refresh it, it's starting to be dynamic, so it's rotating this, at least the cube, not the torus or the cylinder, but this is only when I refresh it. So we have that up to this point, so that's cool. Okay, so now this is gonna be the duration, or dur, or doer, whatever you pronounce it. So the duration, we're gonna go here, so it's gonna be dur, and we're gonna set it to 4000 milliseconds, or just 4 seconds like that. Let's save it, and let me see. Oh, okay, so it's rotating right now. Let's refresh it. Okay, that's cool. So it's only working with the cube up to this point, since we are inside of the a cube. Okay, so now we're gonna have in the repeat and finally the easing. So let's put in here repeat like that, and it's gonna be easing like this, and the repeat is gonna be set to indefinite, so it's gonna be indefinite like this. So let me see if I type it right, indefinite. So okay, and now the easing is gonna be set to ease like that. Okay, so let's check it out how it's looking up to this point. Okay, so let's, oh, okay, so it's moving. If I refresh it, as you can see, yeah, it's moving indefinite right now. Okay, so yeah, it's not gonna stop. So yeah, that's pretty cool up to this point. So but it's only affecting the cube, as you can see. Okay, so what else do we have here? We have the animation, and again this has to be inside of the a cube. So instead of typing in a hyphen box, it has to be a hyphen cube like this, like that. Okay, so now we are still inside of the a cube. And then the a cube is inside of the a scene. Okay, so let's see what else we have. As with any other entities, you can define key properties for the animation. We will be animating the rotation attribute from the 20 space 0 space 0 to the 20 space 360 space 0. So it will be so it will do a full spin. Okay, the animation direction is set to alternate, so the animation will be played forward and then back. The duration is set to 4 seconds, so that is the 4000 milliseconds, and it will be repeated indefinitely. The animation uses ease for easing with the twin.js with the twin.js being implemented internally. So you have the link for the twin.js, and this is the GitHub, so you can check out that. Now scaling, and we're almost done. We can also add animation to entities with custom geometry like the torus and match the same way. So add the following a-animation element to your torus. So let me see, add the following a-animation element to your torus. Okay, and this has to be, let me see, this is not gonna be inside of the cube. Obviously we have, let me see, the entity, the light and camera, light. So entity, let me see, we're gonna have we have this geometry, material, position. So let me see, add the following a-animation, geometry, position. Okay, so now we just have to update this a-entity. So we have geometry, material, position and rotation. Let me see, after position, okay, so we just need to update. And let me see, so after, okay, so we're gonna have geometry, material, rotation and position. Okay, so we're gonna close it here, and let me see, where do we have to put it? So let me check it out real quick. So here we just close it, and then we are gonna, okay, so we're closing the a entity. Okay, so we're closing this a entity, so it has to be, we're closing this a entity, so it has to be right here. And here we're gonna have a hyphen, and it's not gonna be entity, it's gonna be the a-animation, a-animation, like this. Okay, so we can, okay, so we can just put this one here, and now we still adding some properties. So, and this is gonna be animation and then entity. So let me see, animation and then it's gonna start with entity. That's fine. So we're gonna have the attribute, so it's gonna be the attribute. So it's gonna be, we're gonna set it to a scale like that, and let's save it, and let's see what do we have up to this point. Okay, so we have nothing. Okay, that's fine. Now we're gonna have the, we're gonna have the, let me see, we are gonna have the 2, it's gonna be 2, and it's gonna be from 1, and then it's gonna be 0.5, and then it's gonna be to 1. Okay, and again it's gonna be 1 space 0.5 space 1. Okay, so now we're gonna have direction, so it's gonna be direction, and we are gonna set it to alternate, so it's gonna be alternate like that, so like current, so alternate. Okay, as you can see, we have the torus again, it's not moving, so let's refresh it, nothing. Okay, so it's doing this, but let's keep moving. So we're gonna add the duration. Okay, so we're gonna have the dur, and it's gonna be set to 2000 milliseconds. Now we're gonna add the repeat. Okay, so it's gonna be the repeat, and it's gonna be set to indefinite. Okay, so I have it here, and now we're gonna have the easing, and let me see, we're not gonna set it to ease, but it's gonna be linear like that. Okay, so let's check it out. Okay, so yeah, it's moving kind of like a vertical from up to down, or kind of like it's like you're squeezing it from the top to the bottom. So we have the torus, and also we have this the cube moving around, so both are dynamic. So now we will have to work with with the cylinder. So let's keep moving. Okay, the attribute we want to animate for the store as is a scale. The initial default scale is 1 space 1 space 1, and here this is scale, so we are doing it from 1 space 0.5 to 1. So we have that, and we are going to animate it to 1 space 0.5 space 1. So the y-axis will be a scale from 1 to 0.5. The easing we're going to use is linear, so the easing here is linear. And if you, let me see, no, it doesn't have this property. Okay, by setting the direction to alternate, the scale will be animated to 0.5 and then animated back to 1 during 2 seconds. Again, the animation is being repeated indefinitely, and as you can see, repeat indefinitely. So we have that up to this point. Now moving, we could use the animation element, the a-animation, to change the position of the third shape, or we could use JavaScript instead. Add this code at the end of the script tag. So now we're gonna go into our JavaScript file that I have here, and we're gonna go into the end. Okay, so now we're gonna have this let declaration. So we have this let declaration named t, so we're gonna set t, we're gonna set it to 0, and now we're gonna have this function named render. So we're gonna have this function named render, open parentheses and open curly braces. Inside of the curly braces we are gonna have the t, and then we're gonna use the addition assignment operator, and we're gonna set it to 0.01. and this is pretty much would be something like this. Let me see. Okay, something like oops. Okay, I mean, you know this, so this would be like t plus 0.01. so this is pretty much the addition assignment operator. So we have that. Okay, so we are setting that. We ended up with a semicolon. Okay, now we're gonna have the request animation frame. If I type it just request, let me see. Okay, so I have it in the 4. So this is a function request animation frame callback framework. So we have that request animation frame. We open parentheses, request animation frame. Inside of the parentheses we have the callback frame, request callback number. So now we're gonna pass in the render, so we're gonna pass in the function render. Okay, so let's see if it's moving. Nothing. Okay, so let's keep moving. Now we're gonna use the cylinder. So, and again, this is the constant name cylinder. So let me see. Okay, so yeah, we need to end it up with a semicolon, and here we're gonna use the cylinder. Okay, so this is the variable, and we're gonna use this method set attribute. So this is a method, so cylinder and then set attribute, and here we're gonna have pretty much 2 parameters. So the first parameter is gonna be the position inside double quotes. We separate it with a comma, and then we're gonna open backticks. We're gonna open backticks, and we're gonna have the number 3, the $sign. We're gonna open curly braces, and we're gonna use some math. So it's gonna be math that we're gonna use some methods. We're gonna use the sign, so it's gonna be the second one. So we're using this method, the math sign. Okay, and we're gonna open parentheses, and it has to be t multiply. So it's gonna be t space multiply or asterisk multiply by 2, and outside of the parentheses space plus the number 1. Let's save it up to this point, so nothing is changing yet, and let's see if we did it right. So okay, yeah, okay, so 3, and then we have the number 1. Okay, we close the curly braces. Okay, here, but now we're gonna have okay, $sign. Let me see, this is inside of the curly braces space 0, like that. Let me see. curly brace, we close the curly braces, space is gonna be 0, and here we close the backticks, we close the parentheses, we ended up this statement with a semicolon. Okay, so now we're gonna go, okay, after the curly braces of the function render, like that, and then we are gonna return, and we're gonna return the function render like that, and ended up with a semicolon. Or we're just gonna, okay, so we're just gonna call it, so we're not gonna return anything, but we're just gonna call it. We're gonna call the function render like this. So when you call it, we use the name of the function that is rendered with parentheses. So we can save it right now, and as you can see, is kind of like a jumping from, it's jumping in a vertical way. So this stuff is moving from kind of like from X to Y coordinates. So this one, it looks like we are squeezing it. This one, it looks like it's jumping. So if I refresh it, okay, so those three shapes are moving at the same time. Okay, those three have different duration. This one, I think it was 4,000 milliseconds, this one 2,000 milliseconds, and this one is just jumping. So this is pretty much what we have up to this point, so that's pretty cool. We are using the render function to update the cylinder's position on every frame. Try changing the given values on the y-axis and see how it affects the movement. So the conclusion: everything is rendered properly and animated. Congratulations on building your first A-frame scene. Here's how the final version looks and works. So, and also you have this code here, so you have the JavaScript, and yeah, this is pretty much what I did. So we also have this HTML, we don't have the CSS. Okay, if you have a VR device available, now is a good time to try out your scene with it. So you can, if you have the hardware, you can check it out. So you can also check out this in the GitHub. So here you have this is the HTML file, but if you go into the A-frame, he is using this is the JavaScript that we already used, the A-frame.min.js. So this is the one that I downloaded and I'm using here, and I created my main.js, the one that you're seeing here. So that's pretty much it. What else do we have? Let me see. Okay, so that was easier than you thought, right? A-frame targets web developers by offering easy to use web markup and all of the advantages that brings, such as JavaScript manipulation. It is easy to start with, but also provides a powerful API for advanced concepts, as well as dealing with cross-browser differences and such like. The community is growing, just like the number of the supported VR devices. It's a great time to start experimenting with such frameworks. So yeah, that's pretty much all that we have for this build up basic demo with the A-frame, and this is the second part using the JavaScript.